Wow, it's time for another show full of tips and ideas from the sales growth leadership expert, Dean Akers. Known for his experience in hyper-growing companies and creating cultures for high-performance teams, here's Dean.
Well, welcome to your Sales and Leadership Ninja Show. I'm your head ninja, Dean Akers, and every week I bring you a rant to stimulate your thinking in the realm of sales or leadership. Today's show is going to be a little bit of a combination of both, because I hear from both sides, the sales side and even owners of businesses. But the title of the show is, because I hear all this with the government now, everybody's going, oh, big companies are killing little companies. So the title of my show today is Small Businesses Are Getting Killed by Big Corporations. Now, what fun I have every week, because I generally don't even have to think up a material. I get material every week just running in and meeting people. And by the way, this week was no exception. I'm always hearing about how big businesses are putting out small business owners. You hear it from the president, you hear it from everybody. It makes just great conversation. Actually, it's comical to me. And the reason it is I generally can prove to small businesses that they're the problem and that it's not the big businesses putting them out. And so I'm going to tell you a couple examples, and then you can kind of look at your own business and do some of this down and dirty research on your own business and see if you are not, in fact, the one that's creating this challenge for yourself of being highly profitable, especially against big business. The beauty of being in a small business is you are much more nimble and much more in the groove to be able to make quick decisions, influence your team members, integration with customers. Just everything about a small business gives it an advantage over a big business. So several years ago, I even did a show about this, and so I'm going to tell the story again. I had a small hardware store, this is many years ago, that I did business with. And I went in one day, and the owner I knew, and he was looking at me, and he kind of looked down, and I go, what's wrong? And he goes, and we're in Tampa, Florida, for those that listen to me around the globe, in Tampa, and he goes, Home Depot, which is a large hardware products business, and Lowe's were just opening up, within 5 miles of his hardware store. And he looked at me and he goes, these big box stores are going to put me out of business. I mean, they sell so cheap, blah, blah, blah. He went on and on and on, just angst. Now, first off, his store's not well lit. He's got crap stood up everywhere. It's a good shopping experience because of him, but I wouldn't call it a well-run machine, but that's a different discussion. But what I did is I looked at him and I go, you're the one that's going to put you out of business, because he was talking about how competitive his how he couldn't even buy or sell or do anything like the big box. So I said, I'm going to show you, I'm going to make a bet with you. He goes, okay. And he and I walked around his little hardware store, and we picked 10 SKUs, 10 stocking units. And we picked brands, Stanley for tools, and just brands that everybody was selling. So you can make the argument it's really competitive. So when we picked these 10 random SKUs or products in the store, I got the information and I drove to both Home Depot and Lowe's that day. And I went around and priced those exact products. And when I did, they were much higher at the big box store than our store we were in. And so when I started, that really, got me all going. And when we went back, I looked at him, I said, how do you price? And he goes, well, I do markup against cost. Now, the big guys don't do that. The big guys don't just do arbitrary markup across. They look at markets, they look at popularity of products. Some products they'll use as lead in. They may be giving away flowers literally at cost to get you in because they know you're going to buy fertilizer, shovels, tools, and probably buy something else. He was just doing markup. So if you're listening today and you're just doing straight up markup and you haven't done competitive analysis, I challenge you to do that. And if you want to, reach out to me at dean@deanakers.com and just tell me I was wrong. Do 10 or 15 items with a SKU, go to whatever industry you're in and go to the competitors and see how far off you are. So what got me all riled up this week? I was at a meeting and where we would all stand up and share our biggest value and our biggest challenge. And so there were some people in the meeting, they would stand up and they would brag about their companies, which is good. That's what you should do. And then they would brag about or talk about their challenges. Almost universally, the biggest challenge I always find is people say, it's competitive, it's my competitors. Now, here's what's funny about this meeting and this particular individual. This particular individual stood up and said, we're a really valued company. We beat our competitors on price by at least 30%. That's why our customers come to us. We're such a good deal. Okay, that's his value proposition, or their value proposition. Fine, I don't care. Then in the second part of the visit, they go, our biggest competition, our biggest challenge is we can't find good people. Small business can't compete with the big guys for paying their people because the big guys can pay so much more. Well, that's just nonsense. When we look at 30%, we look at their sales, and I said, okay, let's take 30% of a typical company and add that back in. So your customers buy it for exactly what they buy at the big box for. Now look at the margin. Let's assume you never cared about having that money for yourself. Deploy that back against your employee base in wages. Every time I do this example, not sometimes, every time I do this example, you can way pay your employees whatever you want. You can outpay any big company when you look at how much that impact is of your pricing strategies versus theirs. So when you have better service and products, it's like, don't sit there and brag about how cheap you are and then for a few minutes later say, man, we can't compete because we can't get good people, blah, 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 blah. You're not modeling your business out, and the big companies aren't killing you. You're killing yourself. So I sit there, and this is what really gets me on my rant. They had no idea that their problem was they were leaving 30% of margin on the table, and then the other guys weren't hurting them. The problem was big business wasn't their competitor. The problem was they had not built out a model to see what the real opportunities are. Now, I have models I use with all my customers and in my previous companies. And the models, we secret shop our competitors. We look at key products. We look at pricing strategies. And maybe they do buy a little cheaper than us, but we look at top-line pricing strategies. And I would say 100% of the time, we find that we're the problem. And when we look at the pricing strategies, and quite frankly, if you're that much better, why do you need to be the same price as the quote big box stores? And I'll give you an example. If you are customized and you have your customers and you know who your customers are, and in my case, going to this hardware store, I knew the owner. He would always greet me. I liked going there. And the fact of the matter is he was putting himself out of business, so he's going to do two things. He wasn't going to be my supplier because he's going to be putting himself out of business, and then also he wasn't successful. So it was really a sad thing, and he did a great job. By the way, he ultimately did not follow the lead of the facts, and he ultimately got out of business. He just couldn't. Stress has killed him. So when people ask me today, they'll always go, so Dean, what is your solution? And I have my $5 solution, which I have shown and given to a lot of y'all and told you about in the past. Somebody goes, wow, that's cool. What is it, a little white box? And everybody gets it. It's almost comical when I give it to somebody. I said, I'm going to give it to you free. You don't even have to pay me $5. And they'll pull $5 out and give it to me. I said, this will change your world, this tool. And they look at it and they kind of ponder it, and then they see the little thing that opens it, and they open it, and oh my God. Well, what is it? It's a mirror. And when they open it up, they always get this smile, and they always laugh, and they go, you, and I'm not going to say what they call me. And I go, it's the mirror, buds. It's you in the mirror. And by the way, in all my shows, it's always us. When we look back at everything going on, there is so much within our own personal control that we don't take advantage of or don't use, that if you look in the mirror and you start really taking an assessment of what you do, how well you sell, how many cold calls you make, all the things all our shows are about, you'll find that you're always the problem. So today's message is look in the mirror and become a value to your customers, and don't be afraid to charge them what it takes for you to be successful, and they will always pay you for that value. Thanks for tuning in every week, and remember to share if this helps you. My book, Self-Talk, Think Like a Child, is available on Amazon. If you ever have a question or want one of the $5 solutions I just shared with you, just email me at dean@deanakers.com, and I'll be glad to help you. So remember, make sure you're not the one killing your business, or if you're in sales, make sure you're not the one killing your sales. Have a great week.
We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Subscribe today to our podcast and send questions or thoughts to help@deanakers.com. Also, visit us at www.deanakers.com to listen to prior shows and view helpful videos. Also, great tips to download. Thanks again. See you next week.